Nephi chapter 2, verse 8. And it came to pass that he called the name of the river Laman, and it emptied into the Red Sea, and the valley was in the borders near the mouth thereof. So what we have here is Nephi describing a river that empties into the Red Sea. So this is the driest place on earth. And what a bold prediction to make, that there would be a river that emptied into the Red Sea when it was largely believed that no such river existed. We're going to look at how improbable this would have been for Joseph Smith to predict. Alright, the Book of Mormon says that there is near the shore of the Red Sea, 3 days from there, a valley by a side of a river of water that empties into the Red Sea, and the valley was in the borders near the mouth thereof, and the river emptied into the fountain of the Red Sea. It was continually running. This valley was firm and steadfast and immovable. So those are the geographic features that we know from what Nephi writes. And no such place existed according to the studies in the early 1800s and even up till 1980s. The World says in a comprehensive geological survey published in 1984, this is just 40 years ago, concluded that Saudi Arabia may be the world's largest country without any perennial rivers or streams. No continually running rivers existed. Standard sources in Arabia in Joseph Smith's day failed to document even the presence of wadis with seasonal rivers in this region, let alone the approximate location of the only perennial river in the area. Even Hugh Nibley, who was so learned and educated about this part of the world, didn't believe that there was an annual river that emptied into the Red Sea. He even justified the language that Nephi used as, hey, even a trickle could mean a perennial river to these people because there's such a dry area. Even if it came, in the spring with the runoff, that would be a big deal to them. And he may have called it a continually running stream. So given the information available to Joseph Smith in the early 1800s of no rivers emptying into the Red Sea, given 1,200 miles of Red Sea shoreline, the chances of predicting that there was one and the exact location are 0.000025%, which means if Vegas was to create a line on this, I figured this out for those who are into such things. If you were to place a $100 bet in Vegas that there was a river that emptied into the Red Sea at the location that Joseph Smith projected it to be, or wrote that it was, or translated that it was, the payout on something so ridiculously far-fetched would be $40 million at a $100 bet. That's how ridiculous this was that Joseph Smith would predict that there was a river that emptied into the Red Sea a 3 days journey south of Aqaba. However, in May 1995, a pair of Latter-day Saint explorers made a chance discovery. George Potter and Craig Thorstead got lost while looking for a site known to the local Arabs as the Waters of Moses. Being misdirected by a local guide, they headed north along the shoreline of the Gulf of Aqaba until, out of nowhere, the rocky, sandy terrain was broken up by a magnificent narrow canyon, which ended in a palm-lined cove. They have shade here. Here they found berries, natural fruits and vegetables. They found food, water that they could drink, everything they needed to rejuvenize the camp, to stay alive, really, in this terrain, and to be able to move on with their journey. Interestingly enough, a lot of Muslims now believe this was the location that Moses parted the Red Sea and walked on dry ground through this canyon. So we see that Nephi will start to draw a lot of parallels to Moses and Moses' journey in the wilderness, to him and his family's journey in the wilderness, both trying to reach the promised land. Here's where it's located, right where it should be. Wadi Tayyib Alisam is down where number 3. Aqaba to the first star would be a 1 day journey. Then They may be able to find some other of the wadis on the second day, and the third day they would show up right at Wadi Taib al-Lisam.